Welcome to Nourish Your Soul in Nature, the third session on appreciating versus appropriation of nature. How much do we value nature, and how much do we just use it? And how can we change this? And of course, if you look back, if you remember back, the first session was about our relationship with nature. The second session was about we are nature. What is it like to experience yourself as nature living through you? And today is appreciation versus appropriation. And the final session will be about living nature next week. And I'm so delighted to be doing this with all of you, and especially with Natasha, who it's really great to be running this class with you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. So, yeah, I suggested to Julian that we run a session on appropriation and appreciation, which sounds a little dry, I think, as a topic, but in reality, it can be moist. So I was just thinking before we got online that if we really think about moving from an appropriative way of being to an appreciative way of being, really, we have the possibility to re-enchant ourselves with the world. So it could be like a kind of re-enchantment and a kind of kinship. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to overstate it because I'm sure we're all really aware of it. But when we're in a relationship of just taking from, it just doesn't work. And we can see that in terms of the kind of devastation that's happening in the world. So where I'm living right now is in a place called Maischoss in Germany. And I think it was about a year ago, they had these really, mind-boggling floods through this particular river, the River Out. And what's interesting to me is that where I'm living, it's absolutely a devastated region still a year later. And I can really see, it's been really, I think, quite, sobering for me to see that really it will take probably at least a decade for this place to kind of re-find itself again in terms of humans being able to live there. It's like it's on the news for probably a month or 2 months, and then there's the reality of, the impact of what's happening in terms of the world around us. So, so part of this exploration is around how do we change our relationship to life outside of me in here, and how do we begin to see nature out there as sacred? So when I look at a tree, instead of perhaps looking at the tree in terms of how much firewood I might be able to gather for the winter, I might look at a tree for its own sake, something like that. So when I was 26, I became a Buddhist, and when I was about 31, I had a ceremony in which I took on the 5 precepts. And one of the 5 precepts is, I undertake to abstain from taking the not given. So the converse of which is, with open-handed generosity, I purify my body. I would re-language that last part to say, with open-handed generosity, I come to understand my true connection with all life. That would be how I would re-language that. And I don't know why I wanted to bring that in, but it was something about, the feeling of when I'm with another human, how do I not take the not given? And I might do that energetically. I might feel into that energetically. So I was just curious about that. Okay, so I want to share a little bit about animism, and I've written just a little paragraph here, so bear with me because I'm going to look on my screen. So I've written here, my personal spiritual practice includes having practiced Buddhism in more or less a hardcore way, definitely veering towards less the last 10 years, for about 23 years. But also my spiritual practice includes my Celtic roots. So for this, for me, my Celtic roots involves having a profound respect for the earth. At least that's the aspiration. And at its core is something called animism. So I was just thinking, oh, how would I define animism? And for me, I would define it as an empathy that responds to the living quality in all things, even in stones or metal, in storms and in stars. And also, I might say that as a Celt, my ethical practice includes having a sense of solidarity with all life, or at least that's the aspiration. Yeah. So I was musing, oh, how does one cultivate this kind of relationship of solidarity with all life? And partly one cultivates it through language that we use. So I don't know, some of you may have heard of someone called David Abram, Abram. And he wrote 2 books. One was called The Spell of the Sensuous, and another one was called Becoming Animal. And in both of those books, he speaks to how the language we use impacts our perception of the world around us, which is why he called it the spell of the sensuous. Yeah. And certainly in the English language, and I know this is going to be different in other languages, but in the English language, we often refer to nature as it. Yeah, so we use, I don't even know that's a pronoun. English grammar was always my weak point, but we often refer to it. Yeah. And I was thinking, oh, we would never refer to our family or any person as an it. You know, it would be a profound act of disrespect to refer to someone that we're close to as it. It kind of robs, it would rob the person of their selfhood and kind of reduce them to a thing. And so I was thinking, oh, if really I wanted to become, you know, Mary Oliver speaks about to become the family of things, to feel our way into becoming the family of things, I would really need to change something about the way that I language. And it's a little bit clunky when you refer to things as she or he, but in a way it's a movement, like my brother the tree or my sister the fox. It's a way of kind of breaking down the itness to a kind of connectedness for me. So also I was thinking that there's this language of curiosity and this idea of being open to what's beneath the name of a thing. There's this artist called Robert Irwin. I don't actually like his art much, but I love the way he speaks about it. And he's got this quote, which I've kind of lived off for quite a long time. And the quote is, "Seeing is forgetting the name of the thing one sees." I just love that. Seeing is forgetting the name of the thing one sees. So partly that brought me to, I mean, well, anyway, that could lead into poetry and photography and all sorts of things, but it made me think about the Inuits and how they are supposedly meant to have 50 words for snow. Yeah. And for me, that's a kind of seeing beneath the label of the word snow, like how do we open beneath the label? So I just wanted to share with you maybe 10 of their words for snow as a kind of opening into this territory. I have no idea how you pronounce the words, so all Inuit folk out there, please forgive me. But Kripyana is snow that looks blue in the early morning. Hilja is snow in beards. Ontla is snow fallen on objects. Bluvid is snow that is shaken down from objects in the wind. It just really touches my heart. Slanid is snow that falls in large wet flakes. Slaslo is snow that falls slowly. Priakli is snow that looks like it's falling upwards. Skripya is snow that has melted and frozen, and klun is snow sparkling with moonlight. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm like, wow, you're getting somewhere with this. So today I had a go, and I decided that I would look at something in my surroundings and let go of the label of it and write my own version. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, it will become apparent, but I'm just going to share you my wee 5-minute offering. So I've written, I am choir, I Godspeed. My voice fills sky, announcing my becoming. I arrive whenever you look away. I play near and far. I play close, but never too close. I sing as the sun falls. I sing as the sun rises. My day is a quiver. I am flight. So we're going to move into a little practice with each other, which I'm
that was touching and beautiful. Thank you. That was
oh, thank you. My pleasure. We're going to move into a little practice together, which I'm quite excited about. There's this exercise that I sometimes do with people when we're on nature connection retreats, and I ask people to sit opposite each other, and then I've got to get this right. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're practicing letting go of the name of ourselves or our fixed idea of ourselves, and opening to an emergent sense of who we might be right now in our life. And it involves one person saying, who are you right now? So this is right now, not last year, not yesterday, but right now. And then the person opposite speaks, but really as best they can, not from the rational mind. And I'm just going to ask, actually, Julian, if you would just practice this with me,
sure,
so that we can show it to the others. You can ask me if you feel a little bit like what's she doing here.
yes.
And and I can give it a go, because I don't mind doing that. And then the others can see, and then we can go into breakout rooms in pairs and do this.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, hang on. I've got to get my feet on the ground for this one.
Okay, that's part of it, is it, getting your feet on the ground?
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to ask me, or shall I ask you? I'm easy.
I'll start asking you.
Okay, all right. So we're going to go, I think, let's go for 2 minutes one way and then 2 minutes the other way.
Okay.
Does that sound all right?
So do we tune in first, or?
Yeah, we can just have a little breath and a sense of each other. And I'm going to have a little sense of, I mean, obviously we're on Zoom, so it's always got another kind of quality to it, but I'm going to pretend I'm not on Zoom.
Yeah.
And I'm not being watched. And I'm just going to have a sense of, is it possible for me to really let you see me, Julian? Yeah. Don't know, we'll find out. And is it possible for you to let me see you, and for me to open to yeah, that kind of becomingness, the becomingness that we always really are. And I could even, like, it's okay to be irrational and language things in a really curious way when we answer this question. So if I start getting rational, then you can just ask the question again in a gracious way to bring me back.
Natasha, who are you
Now?
Now, who are you now?
I am quivering flighty. I am sun setting. I am breath. I am kneading myself into myself like dough.
Who are you now, Natasha?
I am not knowing this. I am shaky legs like deer, young deer. I am following a golden thread.
Who are you now?
I am old. Ah.
And now?
I am moon. I am weary. I am weary of old men fighting with greed and abuse of power.
Who are you now?
I am moving fire, fierce.
Who are you now?
I'm smiling in my belly as I connect with you. Please tell me it's 2 minutes.
It's 2 minutes.
Thank God for that.
No, it doesn't matter actually. It was profoundly touching and beautiful. Really, really.
Thank you. Thank you. So are you happy for us to go back the other way?
Sure, sure.
Okay, great. So Julian, I'd love to know, who are you now?
I'm tension from the back of my neck across my shoulders and down my arms. And a curious feeling in my heart. I'm the children outside the window who have some sort of cart they're pushing down the street, but I can't see them because the window's above my eye line. I am breath. I am breathing.
So right now,
I'm the watcher. I'm the intellectual person who thinks it's a good idea to dissolve the watcher. I am tingling. I am listening to the world. I am quiet. I am moment by moment. I am thinking about this. I am the air blowing the trees in my nostrils.
Perfect. Ding-a-ling-ling. Thank you. Beautiful being.
Lovely thing to do with another person. Lovely thing to do with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So my suggestion is actually, I think that this exercise is really, it really, what's the word, finds its own stride when you do it for 20 minutes each way. However, we can't do that because we haven't got enough time. So just take a breath. Let's go into breakout rooms and do it for 3 minutes each way, and then we'll come back into the main room. Does anyone have any questions about that exercise before we do it? No? All right, great. So as best you can, try not to answer it from the verbal mind. And if you start heading up there, sometimes I just try and imagine that it's just dropping through my spine somehow.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say anything, isn't it? It doesn't matter if you're talking gibberish.
You can talk
Just
absolute gibberish. Better, the more gibberish, the better.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. How was that for you?
That's really deep. I mean that it can seems very long, 3 minutes, but in few seconds you go deep and deep and deep inside you and connected to a wider world. Thank you.
Yeah, it's surprising how deep one goes. At least that's what I found. Other people.
I found it immensely, I flowed. I had a sense of flow, but it was a connection, awareness, where who I was and myself and every other badge and identity fell away. And I was just aware of my center of consciousness and awareness, the immediacy of places and places I've been, and an association to St. Catherine's Hill, where I've spent many a contemplative evening, and I felt surrounded by the immensity of a universe, which was, of which I felt a part, which didn't overwhelm or threaten me. And it was this, the wonder of one's own being and its smallness, and yet its value and preciousness in relationship. I felt it very moving, to be honest, so I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. What else?
I found it really sort of playful and light and kind of fizzy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I felt the same, light, playful, flow, as Paul mentioned, integration, being great, being connected with just a huge, wonderful, universal field, and then coming back to me and using my images of birds and trees. And yeah, it was very liberating in a very playful and joyful way.
Beautiful.
And sacred way. I felt the sacredness of it. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if we did this when we go to the office in the morning? First thing, sit down with someone and do this for 10 minutes.
Nothing stopping.
Yeah, go on.
Nothing stopping us doing that.
Nothing, that's right, exactly. Anything else? Anyone not have a good experience? It's always worth checking, because otherwise it's someone is sort of secretly nursing the wound from an exercise or something. Is there anybody who?
I felt a depth. I didn't have a negative experience. I had quite a positive experience. But I felt a depth, a breadth, this spaciousness, timeless. I felt there is this, yeah, a lot of space and kind of layers within that space.
It's really something to hear everyone share, actually. Get a flavour of the quality. I mean, I would just encourage you, if you get a chance to do that again with somebody, do it for longer, like good 20 minutes each way. And also this afternoon, I was doing that outside. That's when I made those little sentences, because I was thinking, oh, I'm going to do it outside and ask, who are you now? Yeah. And then see what comes back to me. So it's also, we do it with ourselves, but we can also do it with other beings.
It's also,
we had that.
Go on, Sean.
We had that sense as well that around the 3-minute mark, it's like, well, this is starting to just get interesting, starting to unfold and unfurl in some way. I wanted to continue in so many ways, and yet just to get there was an interesting entryway, a taster of the potential for that exercise.
Yeah, this exercise is really an entry into, you know, sort of the mystical of being much more than just your little self. It's in fact, they do it on something called enlightenment intensives. There's a funny story of a guy who had been, you know, they do this for like 3 days, sitting face to face with people. And then he's out in the park lying on the grass afterwards, and he hears a movement close to him, and he opens his eyes and he sees a policeman, and the policeman says, "Who are you?" Probably that was his enlightenment moment, you know. So yeah, it's something to explore beyond our normal boundaries. So I want to.
I've just got a really quick question, Julian.
Oh,
sorry,
sure.
Is that okay?
Sure.
I just wanted to ask about the differentiation between actually asking the question of your body as yourself / your imagination, or, you know, there's a kind of difference. Well, there isn't necessarily, but has a different quality. And I just
what about asking a question to it all and seeing what comes back?
I mean, I could also offer something to that.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a real stickler, because I don't like confecting experience, because then I don't
trust that's
what I hear you're asking.
Yeah.
So for me, if image arises, which is separate to felt sense, let's say, usually if it's emerging with meaning and coherence, there'll be a part of me which knows that. And if it's just me kind of trying to entertain myself or distract myself, there'll be an energetic quality of that. So one is like sort of sacred imagination moving through us as image, and however else it might move through us. And the other will have a slightly different kind of energetic quality of da 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 da, whatever that is. That's I don't know if that's helpful.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Should we move on to the next part, Natasha? Are we ready for that? Great. So one of the things about joining nature and discovering ourselves as nature and discovering ourselves much more than just this human body is to think about our relationship with this nature. So there's a double thing. One is I am nature, but just in the same way with spiritual practice, if you just say you do spiritual practice and you lean into all is one, that's a really beautiful thing to do. Sometimes it's also really beautiful to talk to God or to talk to higher power or to talk to nature in a very personal way. So even though I am nature, it can be really beautiful to explore the relationship with nature. And so we were talking about, I think last week we talked about, rather than saying it or saying, talking about, isn't it a beautiful day? Saying, day, you're so beautiful. Or tree, how magnificent you are. Or isn't she or he, as Natasha was saying earlier, to talk directly to nature through your relationship with nature, whether it's nature as a whole, to talk to, I have this window in front of me and there are clouds and I can only see a part of the sky, but I can have a sense of the atmosphere around the earth. I can have a sense of the earth, even though I can only I only have a small window onto it. But I can say, hello, I love you. I want to be more intimate with you. I want to know you better. I want to get to know you more. I'm doing a project on the local park, Tooting Common, where very, very in a sort of lazy way, I'm beginning to notice trees and build relationships with trees. And it really helps if I'm just the observer of looking at a tree, or if I'm my heart talking to a tree, feeling to a tree. And the matter I thought of, talking to Natasha was, what about flirting with Mother Nature? What about building that erotic heart-based relationship with Mother Nature? Why not go on dates with trees? Why not go on dates with rivers? Have that sort of human, that sort of beautiful, luscious, I don't really mean human actually, but I mean intimate, soulful, relating with nature. And that's something I want to spend a lot more time doing. I have to say that I haven't spent enough time in my life doing that. And it can be going out into the wilds. When I'm in the wilds, it's really easy for me. The closer I am into the city, I have to, work at it a bit more. But it's quite possible for me. Actually, I'm creating an intimate relationship with, I'm talking to that little tree behind me. I can see a flower growing out of a brick wall, and I can stop if have enough time, if I'm slow enough and present enough. I can stop and talk to that flower. It's very magical or sort of mystical. It's like I was created out of emptiness, and then I'm talking back to, it's sort of, people talk about God talking to himself or herself. There's something about when consciousness meets consciousness, isn't that? It recognizes consciousness, awareness. I'm reading a book that I actually don't understand at the moment, so I can't say much about it, called How the Forest Talks. And it's all through signs. It's not in language, it's through signs. And that every living creature is communicating through signs, is responding to signs. I can't say more about it at the moment. But so that's what I want us to explore, to have more of in our lives. This a really intimate, connected relationship. And of course, when you go on a first date, the second date hopefully is better than the first date. So it's something that you have to build over a period of time. Natasha, do you want to add to what I'm saying?
It just reminds me when you were speaking that I don't know when, I'm going to say 10 years ago, I went on a course and it was called something like interspecies communication. And in my brain, I had all these fantasies about, oh yes, I'll be able to communicate with wolves, and and I had all these ideas about what beings I would be able to communicate with. And then in reality, which has always been slightly, I've never really been able to understand this. In reality, there have been moments then and since where my most resonant connection with let's say a being has been with rocks. So sometimes I think it's curious that we can have this sense, I'm going to go out and court the oak tree or court the daffodils, and then it's like the rock starts courting you and you're like, what? So I was just really intrigued. It's always intrigued me. I've always been like, I don't really understand what it is about the rock that kind of meets me in certain moments in my life, but there's something about that kind of that openness of going to, say, a courting place and spending regular dates there, and then being open to what it is or whom it is that wants to court you, because it might not always be what you think it's going to be. Yeah.
Can I add to that? That's something so important that you said, which is, so there's a difference between my conscious mind saying, I'm now going to go and talk to a tree, that's a very conscious process. Whereas if you're opening yourselves, like the peripheral vision exercise we did in one of the earlier classes, and you're just opening your awareness to what's around you, then you can wait for something in the natural world to wink at you, to come to you. And that's what Natasha was talking about. That's in a lot of ways much more profound, because it's not, your conscious mind is not in control of the process. So you're waiting for a sign. I mean, you could just do a lovely exercise and walk through some nature, whether it's a park or, it's helpful. Certainly for me, if there's a place with a little bit of green, but of course everything's nature. And then wait for something to come to you, like a sign, something to come to you. I was with a friend talking on Sunday, talking about these things, and a pigeon arrived, and he pointed at the pigeon made itself known. So what is it that comes to you? What's the sign? What's the signal? What's the message? Actually, John Grinder, who founded NLP, although I wouldn't say he's a great expert on nature, he used to years ago have us do exercises where we would go into some sort of, he'd call it an uptime trance state, an open-eyed, deeply connected state. This is the language of the 1980s. And walk around waiting for a sign to come, waiting for a message to come. And actually, having said that, it's something I'll go and do myself. Go and walk and see what comes. So it's like going to, I don't know, it's not really like going to a party, but it's like going to a party and then saying which of the beings wants to come and say hello. And I think all of those metaphors around relationship communication are useful, because if you lean into a relationship, if you go and talk to somebody, if you go and talk to, they're more likely to talk back. So I think playing with it in this sort of way. Yeah. Any questions or comments or anything to add? And then after that, Natasha will read a poem, I think, and then we'll have a very short break, and then we'll do a guided meditation. Does this sound like fun? Does this sound sexy? Does it sound like, oh, that would be intimate? Go on a date with nature. I mean, if you've never been wild swimming, I hope everyone has been wild swimming, but that the sort of excitement of that. Any comments or any questions before we?
I like the idea. It's just at the moment I feel like I'm on the clock, you know, and you've got to get this done, do that, do this. So I go, oh yeah, quick, 10 minutes in the garden. But the good news is I'm going on holiday next week, so I'll have plenty of time to be connected with nature and the sea, and I love it.
That's great. But Marina, I want to challenge you a little. Here you are, you've been a successful coach and trainer for at least 30 years. Can you live a little more slow? Is there any reason why you couldn't live a little more slow when you have time to spend more than 10 minutes in the garden? It's a question for everybody, actually.
I really like that idea. If my shares hadn't dropped and my pension was a bit better, yes. I'd love to do it tomorrow, actually.
Your shares will go, well, he says, you know. I'm actually thinking of buying lots of shares at the moment because they're
that's what they say.
Crap, you know, so they'll all go up. You know, well, that's a different conversation, but I would think that your shares will sort themselves out. Although Natasha might disagree with me. But that's a question for us all, you know, like slow living. I got addicted to fast living. I thought that it was cool to have a really full, I spent a lot of time around business people, coaching business people. I thought it was cool to have a full calendar, to have a busy schedule. I learned that working hard was a valuable thing. Well, you know, there is some of that, but what, you know, there's too much of anything isn't good. So just, I'm also the difference between me walking down the street and noticing the trees when I'm in a hurry and rushing to get somewhere and walking down the street connected with being are totally different experiences. And so I'm really inviting the second. Having enough time to laze in the, you know, to laze in the garden. Even if you set an alarm for an hour or, you know, and just said, I'm going to laze, I'm just going to be here. I'm going to listen to the bees.
Yeah, there's something about, just briefly, the parts, isn't it? The high achiever, that's the one I love. Yet listening and just meandering through life and connecting to nature is very compelling.
Yeah. Natasha.
I just want to take a risk and say that when we have thoughts about money and banking, we might also include nature in those thoughts. So for example, some years ago, I moved my banking over to Triodos because I was interested in having a bank that didn't invest in things that were harming the environment.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that in as a very pragmatic thing, particularly around investments. And like, well, where are the investments making their money from? Is it from selling armaments and pharmaceuticals and so on, so on? So I don't necessarily see those two things as separate.
Yeah.
No, that's the reason I bank with a cooperative bank and always have done. I wanted to say that one of my problems is that solitary walking is not as much. I get more energy if I'm walking with another person, but it's important that the pace is more contemplative. And so often the walking is at a pace. I'm very worried about if I was going to the Isle of Wight, having to walk to Ventnor, by the way, Julian.
Walk where?
to Ventnor and Bonchurch, from the Grange. but it depends on the pace, because then, you know, you're so distracted by keeping up, and you don't really inhabit where you're walking.
Yes. Could I just say something to that, Paul, briefly? So my ex-husband used to be a photographer and I used to be a photographer, and it was really helpful because it meant that when we were in nature, we were constantly like dawdling and stopping to kind of look at things. And it meant that there was a real, there was a sort of kinship between us in the way of being in nature for hours in a sort of slightly dawdling way. But also, sometimes I've been with friends And it's also for me very enlivening to walk with friends in nature, but I might say to them, can we spend half an hour not speaking whilst we're walking? Or can we practice sort of slow walking for 20 minutes just out of fun, like as if we were on a pilgrimage? And so there are ways that you can kind of invite a different way of being with your human companions. Caroline, yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, for me in my spiritual practice, it's been a really important question. Am I confecting this, or is it kind of co-emerging?
Yes,
somehow?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it's great to feel into that. Definitely.
I have a story I can share about while we're still on break, about being courted by nature. Is this okay?
Yeah, sure.
So a few years ago, I had committed to making an art piece for a fundraiser, and I was feeling really stuck on it and just like really immobilized. I wasn't coming up with an idea for what I wanted to do, and the time was kind of looming. And I was kind of getting myself worked up. And my husband said, just go outside. And so I went outside and I just let myself wander and be drawn to things. And the things were courting me. And I found some, I'd like to use pieces of, I like to use natural elements in my art. And I found some dried grapevine tendrils, the little curly things from last year. And I found some, toadstools and things on the ground, which really inspired me. And I just kind of opened and collected some things. And I found a little tiny wasp nest, and it all came together. And it was really one of the most inspiring experiences of making art that I've had. And all I had to do was to go outside, and I continue to use that practice. If not even if I need to, I do it because there's always something there that I can be in communion with, and it just kind of evokes a sense of gratitude and joy.
Thank you, Kelly. It's really lovely to hear about that openness.
I'm just sharing maybe well, I'm used to speak with the nature and even with animals or whatever it is. And I think that is something that has been really helpful these last 2-3 years with the different lockdowns. I was alone in my flat, and even when for the few time you had to walk in the street, it was so. There were so much lacking of humanity that for me, connecting with the few plants, the birds, or whatever I can find there, it was contacting again with my humanity.
Yes.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah, I always find looking for those opportunities to open and sense what's there rather than to be alone with oneself. Natasha, your poem.
So this is a kind of a love poem. I am never done with looking. Looking, I mean, not just standing around, but standing around as though with your arms open, she said. Lying down, but with my arms open, I surveyed your every move for a long time. Fathomless blue scooped me up to soar and tumble in its Aegean, cerulean, Arctic breadth. So blue that only blood could be more red. Eyes still locked, you absolutely disappeared into that blue. And suddenly, glued to the dusty ground, but upside down, forever fell into my eyes.
So if you aren't already, taking this as a lead into a meditation, helping you settle down, become expansive. The upside down blue is expansive for me. I find myself, even if my eyes are closed, wondering how broad my horizons can be. I'm reminded of Buddhist tradition of meditating on the top of a mountain and just staring at the broad horizon. They call it eating the sky. And I wonder if these images can lead you into that, whether or not you can actually see the sky. It's more about softening the eyes into that peripheral vision state and just imagining a vast sky. Imagining a vast sky with the shades of color and the way that those shades change across the sky, where they meet the horizon. Perhaps you can see the curve of the horizon, or perhaps you can't, depending on where you are. But just appreciating the vastness. And as my heart reaches up, my body wants to feel the ground. As my heart, my soul reach towards the sky, another part of my soul wants to feel the firmness of the earth.
I might sense in my body, we might sense in our bodies something around the thighs and the hips, perhaps inviting some softening down, some sense of gravity moving through, melting through.
Enjoying how the weight of our bodies makes us more intimate with the earth, draws us into the earth. Or that gravity is almost pulling us into contact with the earth, into a hug perhaps with the earth.
Maybe a sense of the soles of our feet kissing earth, earth kissing us.
One of the great safeties in the world is the solidity of the earth and our contact with the earth.
Body like a mountain.
One way to experience the body freshly, innocently, is to pay attention to the muscles on the underside, on the bottom of your thighs, on the bottom of your arms.
Yeah, somewhere around your delicate wrists and your forearms, you might sense underneath. Maybe the elbows even dropping down. What's it like to soften in the forearms and the wrists? We might remember our face. Maybe we might say to the face, "Hello, my darling. Hello, my darling." Whilst remembering that we actually have never really seen our own face. We only really know ourselves through that inside landscape and through the gaze of others. What's it like to feel the inside of our face? Soft.
The inside landscape. And what's it like for you? Is it like a garden or a valley or a plain? And of course, what's it like for you now? Because of course we could experience it differently at different times. So nature is happening here. We can have an intimate relationship with this garden. We are having an intimate relationship with this garden.
We might ask, what wants to be known here? Just like when Julian was saying, when he's outside and things wink at him, we might ask ourselves, what wants to be known inside?
What wants to be known inside?
Body steady like a mountain. Heart open, broad like the ocean. Mind like the sky.
The breath of our lungs is a part of the sky, the air.
Softening the eyes. While still being open to the horizon with soft eyes.
And noticing how things change moment by moment. Noticing the flow from moment to moment. Your attention, what's arising in awareness is changing moment to moment. If it was a garden, it's the little wind and the leaves on the grass and the movement of a butterfly or a bee. Always change. And we'll notice, is there always change? What's happening in you moment to moment? We can move between the fine detail of a muscle or an organ, or having a larger sense of the whole landscape of our body, or the whole landscape of what's in your awareness.
We might remember the question, who am I right now? Letting it drop through gently, steadily, down through the crown, through the torso, like a pebble in slow motion dropped into a deep, still lake.
The only recommendation I have is to keep coming back to the body. I'll keep coming back to the senses. Only because Thinking is one step removed from the direct experience of the world. Is there a place in your body that if you attend to that takes you deeper or more open? Deeper and more open.
So just opening to a sense of settling, resting and settling, opening. With this curiosity and sensitivity. To what the body is offering. Nice and rooted.
And earlier we were talking about being in nature and finding what winks at you, what messages you, what signals you. I wonder what life or nature wants you to know right now, wants you to be interested in right now. Sensing life moving through us. I hope you can feel the succulence, the deliciousness. Even a hint of it. Just accepting everything as it is in the moment. yet also noticing if there's enjoyment, enjoyment.
Joy. Maybe opening to subtle pleasure or a sense of ease. Not trying too hard. Resting open as best we can.
And when we're ready, just very gradually and easily staying deeply connected, yet also reorientating to the outer world, the world of the field of this community. Yes. It can be really beautiful to stay really deeply connected, yet also open one's eyes and see other people deeply connected, feel other people. So we're a forest of trees, perhaps. Or anything else. A flock of butterflies. So beautiful. So we're going to go into an exercise. Well, not really an exercise, a sharing in groups of 3. And it's really as simple to stay deeply connected in yourself as the listeners, really open to the being that's sharing. And one person gets to share their experience of the meditation, their experience of what you learned, what you got, what was important from the session today, what it reminded you of, and what action you might want to take in the future. So it's a sharing of whatever's been important today, and also to make today useful in a way. It's good to just think about how you might practice this in the future. So one person is speaking, the others are listening with all of their being and all of their hearts, And really you can ask questions, you can ask tell me more, but nothing much more than that. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
I'm walking 20,000 steps. Yeah.
How are you walking 20,000 steps?
Yeah, we're talking about dogs and what blessing the dogs are. My dog, the universe sent him to me and he's just wonderful.
You know, one of my mentors is a dog. Well, he was a dog, he's dead now, but I think he still comes to dreams, you know.
Yeah.
Unconditional love. So how was that for you? How was this? What did you get? How was it for you?
It was a beautiful session and yeah, just so lovely being with tribe and reassuring and just a glowing, loving feeling and of being connected to nature and to everyone here.
Who are nature?
Who are nature? Thank you, Julian and Natasha.
I was in our group of 4. We were silent until one of us, Gianni, I think, left early to go to another meeting. But then Marika and Sean didn't claim any time, and then I think I probably took the 4th spot. But I am still entranced by looking west to by Venetian blinds and having seen the sun set beneath the gable roof opposite, and now it's illuminating the western sky, and it will turn into a most wonderful sunset. And I've never really, I meditated and vocalized on that, and in a way which is an unforgettable moment for me. And I feel that from today, I've attuned my appreciation and a kind of disciplined awareness to relish and celebrate and attend to the sheer giftedness of this, and to get out of my head, remain in my body, and just be and appreciate, see and feel and inhabit. And I'm grateful for this stimulus to continue doing that whenever possible. So thank you, Julian and Natasha and everybody.
Beautiful. So just before we do our sort of closing ceremony, which I always like, you know, just want to mention something that I'm up to at the moment, which is that we've got the 2022 Life Talent Program starting starting in April, and there's a sort of fast track entry, which is the level 1, which is over a weekend, and then the level 2 starts on the 19th of April. I'm so excited about it because for a long time, because I've sort of made some developments of it, for a long time I was working on how do we make the most of ourselves individually? You know, what's great about me, let's maximize that. What's difficult in me, let me heal that. And then I was bringing the spiritual to that. But there was particularly the non-dual, which is, you know, everything is one. There's sort of quite a dichotomy between everything is one and time is eternal, and the finiteness of my human body and the, you know, the lifespan I have. And recently, you know, I realized through the work of Steve Gilligan, but also for him going back to Gebser, to introduce these 2 levels between the individual self and spirit, which is, of course, going out a little bit from individual self. You have the community of mind, including our ancestors, including the cultures of all the world that we're connected to. So when in my inner resources, I can have Gandhi, who I never met, Nelson Mandela, who I never met, as inner resources for myself. So there's the community of mind. And then on the other side from spirit is nature. the natural world. And so we're in a time now where we can actually see how we come down from our cognitive selves into our body's somatic self, and then connect out into the community and feel that connection through the natural world back to spirit and experience that as one. And of course, it's the integral self that brings all of that together. So that's the Life Talent Program this year. It's 40, if it's 40 sessions. Life Talent 1 is 9 sessions. Life Talent 2 is, there's this short version of it, which is a weekend. But then the level 2 is 31 sessions. So it's really time, 31 3-hour sessions. So it's really time to integrate all of that. And the purpose is to help life fulfill its potential through me, something like that, coming up with different words. So that's what I'm up to, if you're interested. Natasha, do you want to say something about what you're up to?
Yes, I'm rubbish at elevator pitches. I mean, not that you just gave one, I just wish that I had one. I think I just want to say that I run a project dear to my heart called The Art of Rewilding. And in a way, it's an exploration of what it means to be Indigenous. So I'm not interested in being an Indigenous Native American. I'm interested in being Indigenous to where I live. And also, I've got a big arts background and a Buddhist background, so I sort of combine those elements together. And yeah, if you're interested, oh, I forgot to mention, part of that is my love of focusing. It's a bit hard to see how it links in, but for me, it's been a way of... So focusing was a method that was set up by somebody called Eugene Gendelin, and it's a partnered practice. And it's deceptively simple. And there's so much to say about it, but basically what it invites is an integration of seemingly incompatible parts and ways of befriending parts of our experience that we subtly hold back from. It's really changed my life, actually, doing this practice, because...
You do that as a coach?
I do that as a coach, and I offer short courses in it. I do focusing and embodiment, and then deeper focusing courses. So if you want to be on my whatever I call it, newsletter, sometimes not very often, I send them out and offer sort of freebies or like invitations to things. Do connect with me through my website and I'll pop you on. Be really lovely to have you there if you're interested.
And the website is in the newsletter that goes out on Saturday, and it's The Art of Rewilding, I think.
.com.
.com. Great. Let's all unmute and let's all say how we're feeling.
I said wordless.
Flowing. Relaxed.
Connected.
Grateful.
Warm-hearted.
I feel replete, which is a bit like satisfied after a big meal.
I feel big.
Sean, have you spoken?
I said wordless, but all the other words that have been used, I say yes.
And I would say that word curious.
I'm feeling the music and silence. I'm just becoming curious about that.
Beautiful. So great to have you here and see you all next week. It's totally lovely. Thank you for coming. Right.
Bye now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Au revoir. See you next week. Yes, bless.